electronics. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a guided tour of my latest boutique amplifier builds. These are called the D62. They're actually constructed in an old 1980s Fender Sidekick 35 amplifier cabinet. So the Sidekick 35s were solid state, and as you guys know, I like to repurpose and retrofit amps into tube type models, and that's what I've done here. So all the solid state components have been removed, and I built a Princeton style tube amplifier on the stock chassis. Okay, so let me take one of these apart. I'll show you guys what they consist of, and at the end of the video, if you're interested in one, I'll tell you how to get it. Here they are, guys, the only two existing model D62 amplifiers. Got serial number 1 here, and 2, they are both constructed identically. So what I'm going to do, we'll work with this guy. I've already popped the back panel off. This would normally go here, so you can see the layout. Got a pair of 6v6 output tubes, some 12AX7s, and this one has a Zenith 5Y3 rectifier. I'm going to drop this chassis out so you guys can see a little bit better. The thing I wanted to point out is both of these amplifiers still have the stock Fender 12-inch speaker. And back in the day, this was still a good quality speaker, so they do sound great. Alright, let's pop out the chassis. Chassis removal is pretty basic. There's just 4 of these machine screws that hold it in from the top. This little white plug that you see is the tremolo foot switch plug. So to disable tremolo, you need to have the shorting plug installed. Output is only for 8 ohms. You see I left the original artwork on the back of the amp. I thought that was kind of cool, adds to the character. Let's slide him out. There it is. Built on a Watts Audio eyelet board. Back in the day when he was still in business, I bought up a few of them. This is the bias board, so this one does have adjustable negative bias, and that is an old military turret board from the 1960s. Alright, let me get this thing down on the bench. We'll start with the top and then we'll come back to the bottom side. Here's the top view of the chassis. We'll start over here and work our way across. You can see we have a classic tone power transformer. These 2 amps actually used up the last of my stock. Kind of a bummer. Filter capacitor was supplied by amplifyparts.com. This is a 500 volt filter cap. You can save a lot of money using these type rather than those can filter caps that are like 45 bucks a piece. You can get these for about $9, I believe. Okay, and you have to buy this little bracket separate to mount it to the chassis. Have a Hammond output transformer. It's the model 1750E. The impedance and the wattage handling capability of this transformer are perfect for this type of system running a pair of 6v6s push-pull. My rectifier tube is a 5Y3. This one is an old stock Zenith. It's beautiful. I have Russian tubes here. These are the Electro Harmonix 6v6s. And I have Savtech 12AX7s. So all Russian tube lineup except for the NOS USA type. You'll see this little cutout here. Okay, I had to bring in a piece of aluminum from underneath to fill this hole. As I stated before, this was a solid state amplifier, so there used to be a heatsink assembly here, and that's where the final output transistors were. So to make it a tube only type of setup, obviously I had to fill that hole and add the holes for the 12AX7s to mount. Alright, that covers the top side. Let's go underneath. Alright, bottom side, I'll give you guys a view from the rear to the front, and we'll flip around and you can see the other way around too. Alright, same deal. We'll start over here and work our way across. Got your typical GE47 lamp holder assembly. This is the bias board. Okay, so there is your bias adjustment pot. and the output tubes do have the current sensing resistors installed. You can see I utilized the brass plate just like Fender did back in the day for noise reduction. You'll see another electrolytic cap hiding here underneath of the front panel. That's because the filter cap only had 2 sections and I needed a third. So this is your preamp capacitor, and you see it utilizes the preamp ground rather than the power ground. I use all top quality capacitors, and the pots are all CTS. Input jacks are switchcraft. The tone circuit on this model has been modified, so this is not a 6G2. It started out as a 6G2, but their tone circuits had issues. So I modified the tone circuit, and I also modified the gain going to the 12AX7. So this amp will really deliver some punch, whereas you guys remember the old 6G2s were kind of anemic. Not the case here. Alright, let me flip it and you guys can see it from the front to the rear. I've turned the amp around so you can see from front to rear view. I'll start over here with the sockets for the 12AX7s. These are Belton Michael-X. I use these on all my builds. They're as close to the quality of cinch as you can get. Then we have the 3 black sockets that you're seeing here. These 2 for the 6V6s, this one for the 5Y3. These are new old stock USA type made of Bakelite, which will obviously greatly increase the lifespan of this amplifier. Alright, so now we have these 2 resistors. These are the current sensing resistors. They're 1 ohm, and they go to pin 8 of the output tubes. So when you're setting your bias, you connect your meter from chassis to pin 8, and you're going to see a millivolt reading. And that millivolt reading is directly proportional to the current going through the output tubes. So if you see 20 millivolts, that's 20 milliamps through the output tube. So rather than having one of those little plug-in bias meters, it's built in to this amp. And then obviously you can check the balance and make sure that you really did get a matched set of 6V6s. We have a couple plastic plugs installed for unused positions from this amp's previous life. The power switch is made by Eaton. The fuse holder is actually the one that came with the amplifier as well as the power cord. I did add my terminal board here for easy termination of the 6-volt filament lines and the ground connection to the filter cap. So there it is, guys, the D-Lab model D62 Boutique amp build, utilizing a Fender cabinet, speaker, and the circuitry from the 6G2, which has been modified. If you guys are interested in this amp, drop me a line. We'll work out the details to put one of these in your hand. There's only going to be 2. But the big question now is, what does it sound like? Take a listen to these clips. Alright, well hey everybody. This is the initial test of a modified 6G2 circuit. It's got a different tone stack, runs at different high voltage, so it's kind of like the G2, but it's our version of it. So Tony's over here to buzz it out. Why do you call it tremolo, man? Isn't it tremolo?
Yes.
Okay, I pull out the magic jumper.
Because I'm partially retarded.
Right, too? Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
Shows off the tremolo.
Alright, everybody. This is Terry D-Lab, and Tony's here to demonstrate my two Princeton builds. We call these the model D62. Yeah. So they're a little hotter than a standard Princeton. This is serial number 1. Swap over.
Well, she's walking through the clouds on a circus mound. She's running wild. Butterflies and zebras, fairy tales. That's all she ever talks about. Ride with the wind.
Alright.
Nice sounding amp, Terry. Good job.
Alright, man. Thanks,
I'll
dude.
buy it.
Will you?
$800. Whatever it takes.